What's up, everybody? It's AJ. We're back with another reaction. Let's push play.
You're relaxing at home when you hear a knock at the front door. You run to the front door, open it, and you see two cops with a sly grin on their face when they lean in and say,
You know what? I love watching content like this, like I say all the time, because we get to get some knowledge from somebody smarter than me. So let's lock in, y'all.
"Hey, we're here to ask a few questions. Actually, I'm here to help, and don't worry, you don't need a lawyer for this." Now, here's the thing: what you say in the next 30 seconds will determine whether or not you're able to enjoy the rest of your night back inside your home, or whether the cops are going to claim they have enough to do a full investigation on you, and you might even end up under arrest. And be careful, because the common response most people feel is safe is the single biggest mistake I've seen people make during police encounters in over 2 decades of criminal defense. So in this video, I'm not just going to lay out how this is a trap, but I'm also going to lay out the exact script word for word that you can use to stop cops when they pull this trick on you, and I'm going to back up everything I say with Supreme Court law so that you know you're protected.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You know what that means? That means that at the end of this video, what you need to do is send it to your cousin. All right? I'm going to put that out there right now. At the end of this video, you need to send it to your cousin.
First, we've got to consider this from the police officer's point of view. Interrogating people and using legal tricks to get what they want, this is completely routine for them. It's no different from them than you going through your morning routine before you go to work. Because this is what cops are trained to do every single day. They're not actually showing up to ask questions to figure out if you're a good person. They're only there for one reason. That is to build a case. And cops know this. When they have no evidence and they don't really know where to start an investigation, they know the easiest evidence they can collect is from your own words. So when
In a lot of the videos, I say, I don't answer questions because then you can't build a story from that.
cop shows up and starts asking you questions and says you don't really need a lawyer right now, remember, his number one goal is to get you to talk. And the single thing that stops him cold, the one tool you have that he cannot work around, is the right the Constitution gives you. So what does he do? He tells you you don't need that tool. Think about what he's actually saying. When a cop looks at you and says that you don't need a lawyer, he knows that's the number one thing that could shut him down, and he wants you to believe it's unnecessary in the moment. His job is to get to you before your lawyer does. And he has a bag of legal tricks that he can use, including lying to you, to make you believe that exercising your right to have a lawyer present is somehow makes you look guilty, or makes you look like you're being evasive, or somehow that things will be worse for you if you choose to do so. So why do cops keep using this trick on people day after day? Because
it works. That's why. Because it works. That's why you keep using any trick. Because it works.
that most people tend to react the same way some comments end up in my videos over time, where people say things, well, who thinks you really need a lawyer if you haven't done anything wrong? If you haven't done anything wrong, you got nothing to hide. It sounds cooperative. It even sounds like something an innocent person might say. But in reality, when you talk about this legally, it's essentially giving permission to be violently interrogated without any constitutional protection. The moment the cop says, you don't need a lawyer, and you choose to keep talking, every word you say and maybe don't say can now be used as evidence, including your body language or your reactions to anything a police officer might do. Every word you misremember, or maybe you say everything exactly right because you're innocent and you have nothing to hide, but the cop writes it down and interprets it completely different. Who are people going to believe? Are they going to believe the cop or you? What about that small little difference you said in your details from 5 minutes ago and the new thing you just said right now? That might just be your normal memory walking through things, but now the cop is writing it down as you're being evasive and lying to the officer about what actually happened. All because you just opened the door and handed him the key. Okay, so you're smarter than that. You're not going to ever tell the officer you have nothing to hide, but let's say instead you say what most people say, thinking it's going to protect you. Can I have a lawyer? Should I have a lawyer? Can I call somebody real quick? Here's the problem.
You don't assert rights with a question. You don't assert rights with a question.
Supreme Court said that doesn't protect you. The Supreme Court decided this exact issue in the case of Davis versus United States back in 1994. The court ruled that an ambiguous or equivocal request for counsel does not require police to stop questioning. In that case, the suspect said, and I want you to hear these exact words, "Maybe I should talk to a lawyer." The Supreme Court said, "Nuh-uh, not enough." The officers continued to question him and interrogate him, and they were allowed to do so, despite the fact he said he would really like to talk to an attorney. How is this possible? The Supreme Court said phrasing his request for a lawyer as a question means he didn't actually invoke his right to a lawyer. By saying, "Well, maybe I should talk to a lawyer," or "Should I talk to a lawyer?" that is not invoking your rights. You were not being clear enough. But what if you want to fight cops' tricks with your own set of tricks by playing the silent treatment with the police? I mean, after all,
Yeah. Don't play the silent treatment. This is not the game you're playing. What you're doing, you're not playing any games. You're asserting rights. You're allowed to do these things. This is the thing that I'm doing. This right. I'm asserting this right.
overwhelmingly, most people think silence with police is the safe play, but it's not. You know the deck is really stacked against you when the Supreme Court decides that choosing to stay silent doesn't actually protect you. In the Supreme Court case of Burgess versus Tompkins, the suspect sat through more than 3 hours of intense interrogation by the police. The entire time he remained completely silent. And only after hours of interrogation did he choose to say a few comments. Then all of a sudden, when the interrogation ended, the cops used those few statements against him. Well, in his appeal, he argued that his choice to remain silent should not be able to be used against him because it was clear he invoked his right to do so. The Supreme Court said not a chance. Being silent alone is not enough to protect you, which is a bit ironic. You have the right to remain silent, but you don't really have that right unless you choose to first exercise it by saying you want to remain silent and have a lawyer present first. And then
Yep.
finally, the fourth response that almost everybody thinks will.
That makes sense though, because you could just be being uncooperative if you're not going to answer any of the questions. But when you say that you're going to remain silent because you have the right to, you know what I'm saying, invoke the Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, now they know that you're being silent because of that, not just because you're being uncooperative.
Is when you look back at the officer and say, "I want a lawyer." Now imagine you do everything right. You just invoked your right to have an attorney present. And then the officer just starts talking about some friendly conversational things like the NBA finals, or maybe he wants to talk about the NFL season in your favorite team. Beware, this is another trick the cops love to use. You think you said you want a lawyer, and because you requested the lawyer, you think you're protected. But in reality, you're not. Think about this trick. The cops know you asked for a lawyer. You say, "Oh, okay, no problem. We'll wait. We'll get you an attorney here." And then they start talking about, "Hey, you love the NBA? You love the NFL? Who's your favorite team?" This is another trick they love to use. They know that if you start talking about something that has nothing to do with the investigation, you have now waived your right to remain silent. And now they can take anything you say, including your own body language, and twist that as a way to determine there may be evidence they can use against you. How is this possible? The courts have said very clearly, when you invoke your right to counsel and then you choose to have any sort of conversation after that, that means you really didn't mean it when you said you wanted a lawyer. So here's where you are. You can't agree to talk.
Well, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense too, because if you're going to say that you want the lawyer and you're going to remain silent until the lawyer gets there, and then you start talking again and the lawyer's not there, sounds like those rights that you just asserted, you just took them off the table.
Obviously, you can't ask a
Let's
question
run this
about
back just a bit.
language and twist that as a way to determine there may be evidence they can use against you. How is this possible? The courts have said very clearly, when you invoke your right to counsel and then you choose to have any sort of conversation after that, that means you really didn't mean it when you said you wanted a lawyer. So here's where you are. You can't agree to talk. Obviously, you can't ask a question about having a lawyer. The Supreme Court said that's not going to cut it. You can't just actually stay silent because the Supreme Court says you didn't invoke anything. And then you can't actually say you want a lawyer and then choose to still be conversational. It starts to feel like every option that would be reasonable for you to use here the Supreme Court's found a way for a loophole for the cops to still use against you. So what on earth are you supposed to say? That brings us to the 1981 Supreme Court case of Edwards versus Arizona. The Supreme Court ruled that once a suspect clearly and unambiguously invokes the right to counsel, all police questioning must stop immediately. Not after another question, not after we clear up this one thing, it must stop immediately. But the key word the court focused on, unambiguously. Your request for a lawyer must be clear and unambiguous. Not a question, not a maybe, a definite. So here are the exact words. Say them, memorize them for when you need them. The first part, I am invoking. Why do we say this?
Invoking.
Because we're not saying, I think I need, or can I have, or maybe I should. You are invoking.
We're asserting it. I am invoking. Did y'all say it? Let me run it back so you can say it. We gotta get this together so we could assert these rights correctly.
Memorize them for when you need them. The first part, I am invoking. Why do we say this? Because we're not saying, I think I need, or can I have, or maybe I should. You are invoking, present tense. No court can call those words ambiguous. I am invoking my right to an attorney. Here you are.
I am invoking my right to an attorney. Did you say it? It's right there. Say it right now. Put it in your head. Run it back. We're gonna get this work. We're gonna get this work.
Part, I am invoking. Why do we say this? Because we're not saying, I think I need, or can I have, or maybe I should. You are invoking, present tense. No court can call those words ambiguous. I am invoking my right to an attorney. Here you are tracking the language of Edwards versus Arizona, and you're calling out your constitutional right by name. In fact, those words are the legal trigger for Edwards versus Arizona, and they're ironclad. And then finally, I invoke my right to an attorney. I will not answer any questions. Not, I prefer not to.
I invoke my right to an attorney. I will not answer any questions. Did you say it? Get it in the head.
To an attorney, I will not answer any questions. Not, I'd prefer not to, or I don't think I should right now. You say, I will not. You make it clear, complete. And finally, I invoke my right to an attorney. I will not answer any questions until my lawyer is present. This part's really.
Boom. Boom. I invoke my right to an attorney. I will not answer any questions until my lawyer is present.
Any questions until my lawyer is present. This part's really important because you're setting the condition for which you are willing to actually cooperate. You didn't refuse anything. You're only agreeing to play ball according to the rules of the Constitution. And here's the most important part after you say that. Say nothing else. Stop talking. Don't say another word. Your right to a lawyer and the right to remain silent only works if you stop talking after you invoke it. So now you know what to say. But watch out, because cops are smarter than you think. They are trained to follow up with your invoking of your rights to try to make you feel guilty or make you feel like things are going to be much worse for you if you don't play ball. Here's my favorite one they love to use. Hey, I already talked to your buddy or your neighbor. We already know what happened. This is the only chance and last chance you have to tell your side of the story. Or the old-fashioned, look, man, you look pretty guilty to me right now. If you really did nothing wrong, you should have nothing to hide. We'll have you out of here in a few minutes. And then finally, the real trick and lie.
They'll have you out of there in a few minutes, all right? You going with them. I want to take you on a ride. Banana, banana, take you on a ride.
Love to use, hey, if you talk now and you tell us what happened, I'll talk to the DA. I'll make sure things go really well for you. Now, everything I just said a cop might use against you, you've got to understand they're either a lie or they're a technique to get you to talk. And when they claim they can go work out a deal with that prosecutor, remember, they have no authority to work out a deal in advance with you, with the prosecutor.
But they do have the authority to lie to you. Okay? So remember that. Like he said.
Prosecutor is the one who has the only legal authority to work out a deal with you or anyone else. So if a cop ever promises he's going to do something special for you on your behalf if you do what he asks you to do, that's not a binding offer. It's a bluff. He is not going to do anything to help you, and in fact, he's just going to use whatever you say and use it against you.
It's a
You've already
bold
invoked your
face.
rights. Say nothing. And finally, the reason the officer is telling you you don't need a lawyer right now is the best evidence you need to see as to why exactly you need a lawyer, and you better not say another word. Because after all, the number one reason why many people end up in jail is because they talk their way into it when they're trying to explain their innocence. So don't fall for this police trap. Speaking of police traps,
Yeah. And I think the last part is going to be the hardest part for a lot of people, because for so many people in this world, that awkward silence is so hard for them. They feel like they need to fill that space. Like he just said, it's not going to help you. So invoke your rights, remain silent. Even if it does get worse for you right then, you can't fight that battle right there. You got to fight that battle in court anyway. So you're better off invoking your rights and allowing them to violate more and more rights than you start talking and put yourself in jail. So like I said earlier, send this video to your cousin, leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll say it one more time. Send this video to your cousin.